Is now watching America's most watched news magazine, Dateline. NBC News, America's news leader.
This is News 25, WEEK, Peoria, Bloomington.
State of the Union, a union the president says is strong. Plus, will high-tech help save lives the next time a fire hits East Peoria? Nightside is next.
From Central Illinois News Channel, Tom McIntyre, Mike Dimmick, Sabrina Kang's special report, Jim Barnett's weather, and Lee Hall with sports. This is News 25 Nightside.
And good evening, everyone. It is not the best of times for President Clinton.
But tonight, in his State of the Union address, he said these are good times for America. The scent of scandal is strong in Washington, D.C., but you couldn't tell tonight. The president was greeted by applause. His speech was also frequently interrupted the same way, typical for a State of the Union address. In his speech tonight, he praised the work done to secure a balanced budget, and he said any surplus should be poured back into Social Security.
What should we do with this projected surplus? I have a simple four-word answer. Save Social Security first. I propose that we reserve 100% of the surplus. That's every penny of any surplus, until we have taken all the necessary measures to strengthen the Social Security system for the 21st century.
The president also made pitches for a higher minimum wage, more money for public schools, Medicare expansion, and a child care tax credit. And there was a warning for Saddam
I
Hussein.
know I speak for everyone in this chamber, Republicans and Democrats, when I say to Saddam Hussein, you cannot defy the will of the world.
In the Republican response, Majority Leader Trent Lott said many of the president's ideas tonight were still based in big government, something Lott says Republicans will fight. So tonight, a respite, but much of the news of the past week from the White House reads like some sordid novel.
And now the president's supporters are trying to change the storyline. Chief author is his wife, Hillary Rodham Clinton. The First Lady defending the president on this morning's Today show. She alleged it's the latest attempt of what she called a right-wing conspiracy to destroy her husband.
I mean, Bill and I have been accused of everything, including murder, by some of the very same people who are behind these allegations. So, from my perspective, this is part of the continuing political campaign against my husband.
But it appears a public relations counterattack will not make the allegations go away. Sources say independent counsel Kenneth Starr may be willing to grant immunity to Monica Lewinsky in a few days. A source close to Lewinsky characterized the investigation as not about sex, but about whether Bill Clinton lied in a deposition. And what will these alleged troubles mean for the president?
Lawyers say the president is using wordplay and deflection to fight the charges. News 25's Gina Morse tries to find out if it's working.
This was the president answering to allegations of an affair last week.
There is not a sexual relationship, an improper sexual relationship.
And President Clinton this week.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Criminal attorneys say Clinton's second denial is much more convincing but a little risky. Peoria attorney Colette Bailey says ambiguous answers actually provide more protection.
That's how you can come back and say, I did not lie. Because you just take exactly what's been asked and you answer it. What have you given the full answer? Has somebody actually lied if they believe a particular action or sex action, whatever, is not intercourse or sleeping with somebody? Is the person actually lying?
What does middle America think? Are you confused by all the legal wrangling? Do you even care whether the president allegedly fooled around with an intern? Most of the Central Illinoisans we talked to answered no.
It wouldn't matter to me about the lies, but for his personal affairs, I don't have no problem with that.
I think this should be between him and Hillary. I feel that the private life should be kept at home.
I don't think that his sexual, dalliance, whatever, has anything to do with the State of the Union.
But Colette Bailey says the special prosecutor's widening investigation is aimed at one question. Did President Clinton break the law? And she says Kenneth Starr's demand of a proffer from Monica Lewinsky's attorney, a blueprint of what she will say under oath before she says it, is necessary so that Starr can decide whether it's worth it to promise not to prosecute Lewinsky. Gina Morse, News 25 Nightside.
Well, tomorrow, the president will be at the University of Illinois campus in Champaign-Urbana to talk about his State of the Union address.
News 25 sending 2 crews to that event, and we'll have complete coverage beginning at noon tomorrow. Governor Edgar will be issuing his State of the State address tomorrow at noon. His speech will have a sense of novelty because it'll be Edgar's last State of the State address. He's planning to propose the expansion of the Project Success program. That brings educators and social service providers together to identify disadvantaged elementary and middle school students in need of help and steer them to that help. Edgar's expected to increase funding of that program from $3 million to $4 million. That would allow it to cover all 102 counties in Illinois.
The Washington, Illinois man who maintains an internet webpage identifying convicted child sex offenders has targeted the IHSA and a wrestling referee. Jim Julian says that referee, Andrew Hahn, was convicted in 1991 of having oral sex with a teenage boy. And Julian wants Hahn to be barred as a referee.
He's also involved with the weigh-in. Weigh-in time is critical. They're trying to make weight. And it's towels or, less maybe. These kids are scantily clad. This is a bad place for a pedophile to be.
But the IHSA says Hahn has served his sentence, and the association is not ready to suspend him yet.
Were you aware of Andrew Hahn's conviction?
Yes.
When were you notified of that?
In 1991, when the incident was first brought to our attention. And we've been aware of it ever since, but we've had no authority to suspend an official, whomever it may be in whatever sport.
And Jim Flynn says while the current IHSA rules bar any convicted sex offender from being a referee, the rule is not retroactive. Hahn doesn't come up for relicensing until July of this year. Meanwhile, Jim Julian says he may start passing out flyers detailing Hahn's record to people at wrestling matches. A doctor will evaluate convicted child sex offender Martin Patrick Myrick's tomorrow. In June, Myrick's pled guilty to sexually assaulting 6 boys, and he was sentenced to 80 years in prison.
Myrick's now says he was suffering from a sleep disorder, his head not clear when he entered that guilty plea, and now he's seeking to have it rescinded. 6 jailers in the Tazewell County Jail suspended with pay pending the outcome of an investigation there. A special prosecutor is looking into alleged wrongdoing after an inmate committed suicide last Friday. 27-year-old Stephen Christopher Carson found hanged in his cell Friday morning. Authorities say his body was not found for some 12 hours. Jailers are supposed to be checking the inmates every 30 minutes. On the night of the incident, there were 94 inmates in the jail and only 5 jailers and jail guards. City of Bloomington set to begin an aggressive drug enforcement program aimed at landlords.
And landlords say parts of that plan make them nervous. Bloomington police have a list of 32 properties where they've documented at least 2 drug deals over the past 12 months. Soon, those property owners will get warning letters from the Illinois Attorney General. If the problem persists, it could mean court orders boarding up nuisance properties for a year.
The responsible landlords will not be hurt by this. This will be a tool that we can all use and live with.
Philosophically, we have difficulty with the forfeiture aspect, being held responsible for the tenant's actions, and we're also to some degree being put in the position of being policemen, trying to police our tenants, and this really isn't a role that we want to take as landlords.
Jim Pullman says he's received assurances from the Attorney General that only flagrant violators will lose their properties. Before hundreds of businesses in Peoria are forced to pay a hazardous materials fee, the city will take another look at how much money should be charged to cover the costs in the event of a disaster.
That plan was passed nearly 10 years ago. It's now being phased in with fees that'll help the fire department better prepare to handle environmental emergencies.
But there are worries that it will hurt the pocketbooks of small businesses. Fraser Ingerman is in our newsroom tonight with more. Fraser.
Mike, potentially every gas station in the city of Peoria and every business that handles, stores, or sells hazardous materials will end up paying the fee. Fire Chief Ernie Russell says the money means more training and more equipment to handle spills and leaks. But the council wants to see the burden shift from Peoria businesses to those outside the city that might seek Peoria's help in an emergency.
We should not be frightened to charge for that service. Not gouge, but charge.
This is not a cheap business to be in. These are federally and state mandated regulations that we're abiding by.
And just an example of how expensive it actually is to maintain and run a hazmat unit for the fire department. The city council is letting the fire chief and the department spend $175,000 for just one new hazardous materials mobile van. Back to you.
Thanks, Fraser. East Peoria firefighters are hoping to get a boost in their rescue efforts with a new piece of equipment. Firefighters say most of the time they have to work in pitch black conditions.
But a new kind of helmet will help them pick up images. It works sort of like the infrared combat goggles used by soldiers. News 25's Sabrina Kang joins us now with more on this device. Sabrina?
Firefighters, Mac, are saying that these new helmets will save lives. And the helmet's biggest advocate isn't even a firefighter. The fire that destroyed the former Newell Hotel and Coffee Shop killed 2 people. Its owner says if the high-tech helmets would have been available then, at least one of the victims would have survived.
One of them was found right at the top of the stairs, you know, and they had already went up, but they didn't see him.
Rosie rebuilt her business, but she hasn't forgotten the loss and is behind a fundraising effort to buy the helmets.
A firefighter is currently going into a fire without the benefit of any senses because of gloved hands, Nomex hoods, and the smoke box, the vision, and this gives the firefighter back his vision.
This is the kind of picture firefighters will see with these helmets. When we met Heath McGovern earlier this month, he said all he could see was black when fire destroyed his home. His family is now safe and slowly rebuilding, but the McGoverns can't imagine what could have happened.
When you know that something bad might happen to you, it's scary.
If there's a fire in one room of the house, the rest of the house is full of smoke and you don't know your way around it. Anything that they could get that could help them see to rescue or save would definitely, you know, be well worth whatever price it is.
These helmets are expensive, $25,000 each. The East Peoria Fire Department wants one for each of its 3 stations, but relies on donations. If you're interested in helping out, you can call the Newell Restaurant in East Peoria. Mike?
Sabrina, thanks. Still to come tonight on Nightside, we have more for Avon and all of Central Illinois.
Jim Barnett says use care if you're driving tonight. The fog's going to stay for a while. And do you have what it takes to be the next Millennium Man?